Thank you, Chairman. The building fire alarm signal is a continuous two-tone alarm. On hearing the evacuation alarm, leave the building by the nearest smart exit route, follow the green signs to the assembly point, that's a large staff car park opposite the entrance to the building. Anyone who cannot use the stairs will be helped by officers present after other people have left. Do not return to the building until told it's safe to do so by any authorised officer. The whole of the council site is a no smoking area. Mobile phones must be switched to silent or preferably off, please.
Thanks, Vice Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman. So this application is reserved matters pursuant to outline application DM 1851114 for the erection of a secondary school, including specialist support centre, car parking, cycle parking, drop-off area, access, multi-use games area, all-weather pitch, substation, bin storage, means of enclosure and lighting, with associated landscaping and infrastructure. The committee will note that this application is for reserved matters, which is not usually presented to the committee and is usually dealt with under a delegated authority. However, this is a submission by the County Council, and the Council's scheme of delegation requires such applications to be dealt with by the District Planning Committee. The site is located on the northern boundary of Brookley to the east of Isaacs Lane, which is just here. The site is located on the free fields that you can see in the aerial photo. The construction work that you can see to the southern end of the photograph is the Eastern Bridge and Link Road, which is now well underway. This aerial image is slightly out of date, as construction on this piece of infrastructure is expected to complete next spring, and it is now clear to see the road in position and the bridge across the river. This slide shows the location of the site, shown in purple, in relation to the remainder of Brookley. The need for the school and its broad location was established as part of the outline permission, and the application that members are considering today is for the reserved matters only. This slide shows the site layout. The building is positioned at the top of the Northern Arc Avenue. Access will be achieved from the site directly from the Northern Arc Avenue. The access point itself was approved and is being constructed as part of the Eastern Bridge and Link Road. Playing pitches would be located to the north and west of the site, and these include a running track, football, rugby and hockey pitches. These comprise a mixture of grass and artificial pitches, one of which would be floodlit, the one to the far south of the image. This slide shows the front and rear elevations. As you can see, the front elevation comprises 3 linear blocks with interest provided through the brick piers and window detailing, as well as the canopies which link the blocks. This slide shows the side elevations. PV panels and plant would be positioned on the roof. 264 cycle spaces would be provided in an enclosed shelter with space within the site reserved for a further 150 spaces to be provided at a future date if necessary. This is the landscape plan. The front elevation of the building forms the secure line for the school, and as such, high boundary treatment is not required on the front of the elevation directly in front of the road. High boundary treatment would be positioned on the side and rear elevations, and this would be 2.4 metre weld mesh fencing. The front of the site would have low-level fencing with landscaping provided between the school buildings and the road frontage. Mature trees within the site would be protected, and additional tree planting would take place within and around the site to compensate for low-quality trees that are lost as part of the development. These slides show some visuals of how the building will look. This particular one is taken from the Pocket Park, which members will recall was part of the Bellway proposal, which the committee granted permission for earlier this year. And this one again is taken from the Pocket Park, directly looking at the main entrance to the school. The proposed development will be highly sustainable, with the development aiming to be zero carbon and Passive House certified. In terms of the energy strategy, the building is designed so that the teaching wings are orientated east-west to support passive solar heating. Solar shading is provided to the south orientations through brise soleil and deep window reveals. There are high standards of insulation and triple glazing. The proposal will be an airtight construction with thermal bridges designed out. There will be natural ventilation openings and louver panels to allow cross ventilation via high-level openings. There will be a mechanical ventilation heat recovery system, and the heating would be supplied via ground source heat pumps. High-efficiency LED luminaires will be used with occupancy controls, and there will be a building management system to efficiently control the energy consumption of the building. The site has no gas supply, and finally there will be PVs situated on the roof. Daylight to the building is maximised through appropriate glazing, and heat is limited from entering the building through external shading and solar-controlled glass. Measures to reduce water consumption are included within the design of the building. In terms of materials, timber will be sourced from sustainable forests, and local materials are preferred. In terms of waste, a management plan will be developed to minimise waste and recycling. So the sustainability of the site is considered to be excellent and goes well beyond MSDC policy. In terms of transport, a travel plan is secured through the legal agreement, and a framework for this accompanies the application, setting out measures that will encourage sustainable travel. As previously outlined, 264 cycle spaces would be provided, with space reserved for additional spaces, and these are provided just adjacent to the building. A drop-off area is proposed as part of the site access. This enables vehicles to enter the site, drop off and then exit. Space is also provided within this area for coaches to stop. In terms of the wider Brooklyn Master Plan, there will be direct off-road cycle and pedestrian links from the Eastern Neighbourhood Centre, which is situated to the south of the site, and these routes will travel through the Bellway parcels that the committee approved earlier this year. The Green Circle, which also provides off-road pedestrian and cycle access, runs directly adjacent to the site to the east and continues down Freaks Lane, providing off-road cycle and pedestrian access to the remainder of Burgess Hill. Now, I'm now going to show you a fly-through of the proposal. Members will want to be aware that this was produced in advance of some of the amendments to the elevations, so please bear in mind that the elevations are indicative. However, it shows the school in its context, so I felt it was still worthwhile showing this to the committee. And just bear with me while I load this up. Oh. Can I show something that's not on the PowerPoint? Oh, okay. Apologies, I'm not actually going to be able to show you. I had assumed that if I opened it on my computer, it was going to show you on the technology, but I think we can only show the PowerPoint. Apologies. Members are reminded that there is an update sheet, which you'll have seen. Within this, it sets out that an additional representation has been received. This is for the department responsible for providing pupil places at West Sussex, setting out the need for the school. As set out in the update sheet, it is recognised that there is a need for this secondary school in Burgess Hill to meet the infrastructure needs both of Brookley and for existing pupils in the wider area. This has already been established as part of the outline planning application, and the need for the school was given great weight at that point. There are 2 additional consultees that weren't included within the original agenda report. Those are summarised for you on the update sheet. There have been 2 decisions on Brookley which have been made since the publication of the agenda. That is for a section 73 to the main outline permission that was approved last week, and in addition a section 73 application on Freaks Farm was also approved last week. There are also additional amendments to some of the conditions. This allows for updates to the drawing numbers, changes some of the triggers for the conditions to allow development below slab level to take place in advance of the details being approved, and splits out some of the requirements for details in relation to the substation and boundary treatments. These are made at the request of the applicants. And thank you. This application is recommended for approval subject to the conditions in the agenda as amended in the update sheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Louise. We have no objections today, or speakers objecting against this application, but we do have a speaker for, and that is Lydia Shillibak from West Sussex County Council. If you'd like to take your seat at the speaker's chair there. Just to explain, you will have 3 minutes. Paula, the legal officer, will time the first minute on her watch, because I'm afraid that's only set up for 2 minutes. When the green light comes on, you have 2 minutes. When the amber light comes on, you have 30 seconds. When the red light comes on, I will ask you to round up to your nearest sentence. Please continue when ready. Thank you.
Thank you. West Sussex County Council and co-applicant Homes England are pleased to submit the proposals for the new secondary school at Brookley for your consideration. Through positive pre-application advice and design review panels, the school design has been developed to meet the requirements of modern secondary school provision, of West Sussex County Council's commitment to addressing climate change, and to meet the overarching aims of Brookley, including the design guide and Mid-Sussex District Council's sustainability policies. Homes England are fully supportive of this highly sustainable and well-designed secondary school. The proposed Beadlands Academy Secondary School is an exemplar development, providing much-needed school places in a truly inspiring scheme that sets out to give future generations of local young people within Brookley and the Burgess Hill locality the best start in life. Paragraph 95 of the National Planning Policy Framework sets out that local planning authorities should take a proactive, positive and collaborative approach to ensuring sufficient school places are available to meet the needs of existing and new communities. Paragraph 95 goes on to state that local planning authorities should give great weight to the need to create, expand or alter schools through the preparation of plans and decisions on applications. Great weight should also be given to this scheme's very high sustainability credentials, which exceed the requirements of Policy DP 39 of the adopted Local Plan 2014, and will provide Burgess Hill with the first and only Passive House accredited secondary school in West Sussex. This is a stringent requirement which has guided many aspects of the building's design to ensure the scheme meets the criteria for accreditation and, ultimately, a climate resilient school able to provide teaching and learning into the future. Further to the building's ultra-low emissions and high energy efficiency, climate resilience has been taken through to the landscape proposals with a sensitive and considerate approach to the existing landscape and biodiversity, retaining and enhancing its dominant features while providing facilities that can be used by the school and the local community. The proposed scheme has been designed to serve as a landmark and anchor for the Brookley area, with high-quality design, fully compliant education facilities, and careful integration with both the proposed urban development to the front and with the natural landscape beyond. As such, it is considered that the scheme as proposed is very strongly supported by both national and local planning policy and fully complies with both the adopted Mid-Sussex Local Plan and the Northern Arc Design Guides. Thank you.
I think that's pretty good timing. Thank you very much. Before I go to questions, I think this, you can see it's quite impressive, and I think the officers to arrange a visit for members to the Brookley site in the Eastern Bridge Link Road. So, just to give you an actual flavour of what's going on there at the moment, which I thought was quite a good thing to do. And of course, this application actually goes beyond the actual council sustainability policy requirements. So it aims to be net zero carbon and passive house certified. So quite an impressive application. I'll go to members for questions if I have any. Councillor Trumbull.
Thank you, Chairman. Perhaps I've missed something, I don't know, because neither the planning officer mentioned this, and forgive me, I've forgotten your name, but the lady from West Sussex implies that it's fully compliant with the design guide. And as you'll be aware, Chairman, I've long been a champion of good design and have been instrumental in pushing this council for better design standards over the years. What we have is an application which has been through outline process. The principle is agreed. It's part of a strategic site. So logically it should sail through. And I've no doubt it will. But I just have questions over the design. As I said, neither the officer mentioned this, and West Sussex seems to think it's fully compliant. Yet, I read in the report that it's not entirely in accordance with the Northern Design Guide and the principles of the master plan. And I read in the update sheet that there are some elements which do not fit. And I read the design review panel's concerns about austere design, landscaping, facades, how it sits with the residential development, and so on. Now, I've no doubt that these things are not in themselves any reason to refuse this application. But as someone who is passionate about design, I have concerns about those things. And as someone who is passionate about design, I would like a commitment from our officers that this is not the start of watering down our design principles for Brookley. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. Louise, would you like to? Yeah.
Presentation. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Trumbull. In this instance, the Northern Arc Design Guide set out that the school should be a prominent building, creating a vista from the southern end of the Northern Arc Avenue. So as you look up the Northern Arc Avenue, the intention of the design guide was for the building to be a prominent building at the end of that street, with the entrance sort of clearly visible. As officers, we feel that there has been justification to move away from that. As you can see from the image up on your screen at the moment, the building is orientated slightly away at an angle from that main Northern Arc Avenue, which runs north to south. Now, the reason for that orientation is because of the Passive House certification and sustainability credentials of the scheme, which has sort of dictated to some extent where the building needs to be sited and the orientation it is sited at. Now, having said that, there is still a strong frontage to the building, as you can see in this image, and you will be able to see it as you sort of come up from the southern end of the Northern Arc Avenue. However, it doesn't immediately meet those aims that was set out in that design guide. However, the urban design officer and myself do consider that this building is a well-designed building, even though it doesn't meet that sort of immediate aim of the design guide that was initially set out. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Yes, and of course this has been through the design panel, and of course our urban designer is quite happy with this. So. Yes.
I appreciate it's been through the design review panel, and the design review panel's comments are here on the update sheet. And they do ask that these things are considered. So that I fully understand. And I repeat to myself nightly as I go to sleep the mantra that every application must be looked at on its own merits. I appreciate that too. But I've not had any acknowledgement that we will not be diluting our design principles going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Trumbull. Councillor Jackson.
Thank you, Chairman. Looking at the details, there's quite a lot to take on board, but perhaps one or two questions I should like to say. First of all, it's going to be a school, and we don't want in some ways to compromise the functionality of the school. I take it to be a school for upwards to 9 to year 11, so it will be a primary, secondary. In terms of the internal sort of separation, will the infant primary part be to some extent geared to be separate from the secondary part? Because obviously you've got 16-year-olds one end and...
Councillor Jackson, can you address it through the chair, not through the speaker?
So that's the first question in terms of the way the sort of the whole of the particular teaching areas will be allocated. Secondly, in terms of the particular design, is it designed to be, 30 years, 50 years? Because in the 50s and 60s, you've had schools designed for 30 years and they're all falling apart and have had problems with replacing them or repairing them. And thirdly, there is a question about the sort of noise generated from the playing areas. Obviously, a school, the playing areas are to give the children a chance to have physical exercises. Therefore, one doesn't want to compromise the ability of the school and the school teams to be able to operate there. So therefore, that's an area on the time limitations on and the floodlight limitations on those playing areas.
Okay, thank you. Louise.
So I'll take them in reverse order. So the time limits and the comments about the play areas, we have restricted the times in order to protect the surrounding residents. However, these are still considered to be suitable for the school to use the pitches for the school pupils. They will be entirely permitted to open them within school hours, and we have consulted with the with the team on the restrictions that we've put in place for the evening, and they have confirmed that they are happy with those restrictions. In terms of the design, well, how long it's been designed for, that's a construction issue. It's not necessarily one that I can answer, but I do know that a lot of thought has gone into this design in terms of materials, etc., and its longevity. Finally, in relation to your query about the all-through school, this application that you're considering today is just for the secondary element of the school. And Ellen, would you mind showing the presentation? And I'll just show you on this master plan. So the purple area is what we're discussing today, which is the secondary element. And the blue hatched area, which is, if you go south from the purple area down to the bottom of the screen, there's a blue hatched area. That is the primary element of the proposal. So it's on a separate site, but it is going to be operated by the same operator. Thank you. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillor Bates.
Thank you, Chairman. I picked up early on the mention of the cycle parking provision and just wondered if it was going to be a covered cycle, you know, the old classic cycle shed. And then the second point is in terms of the sport, it's nice to see a running track there. Would there be a possibility of getting that as an all-weather track? And whether the pitches would be 3G, you know, from the first instance. It seems very topical, these 2 points that I've just mentioned at the moment.
Yeah, well, again, we're looking at the application that is in front of us, and as regards the cycle, is that covered, Louise?
Yes, the cycle parking is covered. It's in an enclosed shelter, fully enclosed with Sheffield stands actually within that shelter, so you can actually go into it and park your bike within the building. With regards to the running track, if I can show you the image, I'll wait for Ellen to get it up. The running track is actually positioned on top of other sports pitches. These are grass pitches that have been designed to utilise the space available on the site, and for that reason, you know, it has to serve a dual purpose, and it is a grass running track.
Thank you. Councillor Ben.
Thank you, Chairman. My questions actually are about lighting, so I'll keep it simple. I'm delighted to actually see that there is an external lighting report, and I'm looking at page 20 on that from Cundall, and you will perhaps, the committee may well recall that as part of the Regulation 18 consultation for the new district plan, we amended that to include a definition, or shall we say, a categorization of temperature into our lighting requirements in the future, and they will be defined. The conditions we've asked for refer to the lighting report, and I'd like some assurance that on two parts, that the specifications on page 20 are delivered, specifically including the temperature requirements, and I'll give you an analogy in a moment. And I'm concentrating on EX8, which is an exterior pole-mounted LED, and they come in at 4,000 kelvins. Question is, are those the lights that are specifically going to be on the poles around the football pitch? Because, yeah, if they are, they're going to be potentially quite intrusive at 4,000 kelvins. But I appreciate that you may need that temperature of lighting to play sport. And if so, I think it's condition 10 asks us, or requires, a lighting restriction between 0800 and 2000 hours in order to protect residential amenity. not just that, but also biodiversity in the area. Sorry, it is quite technical, but the problem with most vendors of lighting is they will sell you a light bulb. 99% of people won't know what they're buying. That's the problem, and this is why we need to get this right. So if we can clarify that point, I think I'm probably going to be quite happy. And then I'm going to skip forward to page 51 of our report, which hits on biodiversity enhancements are also proposed for the site, including provision of bird and bat boxes, small gaps in boundary fencing, and extensive green roofing for the cycle store. Whilst they're proposed, are they actually going to be delivered as part of the application? And if not, can we make certain there's a condition in there to make certain that they are? And we need to be certain of that. I'm at the moment, I'm not having got to skip through the conditions. And if we don't get it in now, that won't happen. So, hence, if it's not in there, I'm proposing it as an amendment to the conditions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lebain. It was a bit technical for me. I don't know whether you could just, if you can, Louise, put that in layman's terms.
In relation to the first point, in relation to the lighting, what I would suggest is an additional condition just requiring full details of the lighting around the sports pitch to be submitted and approved to enable us to check those details and make sure that they comply with the requirements. So I'd recommend an additional condition in relation to that. In relation to the biodiversity enhancements, condition 6, which is on page 58 of the agenda report, requires a biodiversity enhancement strategy, and that requires those works to be implemented in accordance with the details approved as part of that condition and in accordance with the timescales, which is also included as part of that condition.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Eaves.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you. I'm delighted with a passive house building. I think this is fantastic. Bring it on. But my first question would be, how are the children from Haywards Heath going to get there? Because I don't think they're all going to come from Brookley or further south. And that links in with, that's DP7 of the district plan, but that also links in with, is there enough cycle parking? Because I think I read there's going to be 900 children and 70 staff when it's actually full. Does that apply to the secondary school and the primary school further south? Perhaps it does. I can't see that 264 spaces plus 150 will be enough. And if there's 900 kids being driven to school, that's going to be a nightmare, basically, for the traffic. So that's my main concern. And also, why passive EVCPs? Why not active? I think the environmental health people have pointed that out as well. Thank you.
Thank you. People coming from Haywards Heath and how they get to school is not really relevant to this application. Louise, did you want to answer the other question? Thank you.
Yeah, just add to that the sort of transport modelling, etc., was dealt with as part of the outline application, and it is recognised that there will be vehicular movements associated with this development. In relation to the cycle storage, there is a large number of cycle spaces provided on the site, 264, with an additional space earmarked on the site specifically to expand that by a further 150 spaces. It is considered to be a large proportion of cycle storage for a school of this size. Finally, in relation to the EV charging points, a condition has been recommended, that is condition 15. The design team have agreed to provide a greater number of active charging points. So we've added that condition on to make sure we can secure an appropriate number and deliver those on the site.
Thank you. Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, just picking up on Councillor Trumble's comments, of which I concur. The design, the elevations particularly look bland to me. So I'd just like to ask a question really about, in the update sheet, particularly with the urban designers' comments and the design review panel, obviously they go hand in hand. It mentions a design review panel in January this year. Has there been a subsequent design review panel, and have all of the original concerns of the DRP and urban designer now been fully sorted out with this application, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I believe they had. Louise, would you confirm that?
Yes, so the scheme was originally presented to the design review panel in January at pre-application stage. The comment in the update sheet is those comments that are set out there are the second design review panel that took place in September. At that meeting, the design review panel congratulated the improvements that have been made since January. In relation to the comments made by the design review panel in September, there has been some amendments to the design, including introducing more glazing and brise-soleil along the front elevation to add more interest and soften the appearance of that front elevation. There are some of the comments of the design review panel that haven't been resolved. For example, the design review panel suggested that the projecting elevations at the rear be splayed away from each other. Again, we had discussions with the design team following on from the panel, but as I said earlier, the specific siting and orientation of the building has been dictated by the passive house and sustainability requirements, and that was not an amendment that the design team felt that they could bring into the proposals. And taking into consideration those high sustainability standards, on balance, as officers, we are satisfied that the design team have done enough to overcome the majority of the design panel's concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, you wanted to come back?
Secondly, referring to page 17, the MSDC drainage officer report, and we all know that the southwest of the district with clay and soil, surface water draining is a serious problem. The drainage officer reports the overall surface water drainage strategy with attenuation and discharge to a water course appears largely acceptable. That's a sort of qualified report. However, I advise that the discharge rate should be restricted to the Greenfield Q bar rate. What is that, and what does that refer to, and what does that sort of protect against? And also says for the area being drained by the discharge point, not the whole site area. So again, there's a sort of query there: is it all going to be adequate to deal with perhaps some of the heavy rainfall that we've been getting over the last couple of years? So perhaps you can answer that question: what the Q bar rate is, and what it actually addresses, and how confident are we with the drainage strategy?
Yes, if you can explain it.
Thank you, Chairman. So the Q bar rate is essentially a standard that we look for to make sure that the site drains the same as it would if it was an existing green field. So despite the fact that development is placed on the land, the water should still drain into the watercourse at the same rate as if there was no building on there. In relation to the specific point about the drainage strategy appearing largely acceptable, there was a drainage strategy submitted with this application. However, it is a condition on the outline consent, so the full details of that drainage strategy will need to come through in order to discharge that condition of the outline planning application, and we will need to be satisfied that the drainage strategy is acceptable at that point before the development can commence on site.
Councillor Bain.
Thank you, Chairman. It's about the design review panel input. We've got design access statements in here dated the 16th of August. We've had a design review panel in September, and this isn't the first time I've raised this as a concern as a councillor. Is that why aren't, I'll take a word out, why aren't these design review panels and the urban designer reports available online and available to councillors so that we can actually review them in good time, delve into them and perhaps actually have a constructive discussion with the urban designer to actually kind of help maybe have some input before it reaches this stage. My concern is that it's not just actually this application, but bearing in mind that the heart of this growing a good district and a better towns for our residents and our communities, design is at the heart of that. And if that information is being, shall we say, left out, putting it in at the last moment really isn't good enough. We need to do better. And more so because legally, the urban design review panel, or sorry, the comments that the urban designer makes on any planning application, and I'll use it in capital text, carry considerable weight in terms of relevant planning considerations. We need that information a lot earlier, please. I don't need a response now.
Well, yeah, I perhaps have to, but what we'll say, all the comments are put on the portal from the design review panel and the urban designers' comments. Anyway.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to confirm that our design review panel is processed in accordance with code of practice, and we invite ward members to those meetings. So ward members are involved at that early stage. And when the comments are produced, they are published. They are published on the website, published on the application file. Same as, when our urban designers' comments are made, they're published online as well as in the various papers that we have this evening, this afternoon. But it's something we can review. I mean, if members think that, the way we run design panels at the moment could be improved, then obviously we're open to hear what that might be. But at the moment, ward members are invited, so we get the local view onto those sorts of applications. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, very quickly.
Thank you. Yeah, my point was that the reports, I accept all of that and the ward members are involved. But we are a planning committee. We're ultimately responsible for making these decisions. And the information is not there on the portal, not for our access. At this moment, I've checked. Thank you.
Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Chairman. I would like to sum up really and basically say it's an excellent application. It's so refreshingly good to see infrastructure and major infrastructure coming through, because so many of our residents complain there isn't infrastructure in all of its forms. So this is a huge project, not just the site, the actual delivery right in the centre of the site. I think it's going to be a centrepiece. So, well done to all the stakeholders, County Council. Just pray that it's delivered now and financed and tendered and within budget and all of that stuff. Great collaboration and project, so well done to everybody involved. And I support the motion to recommend for approval, please, Chairman.
Thank you. Before we do that, Councillor Bates wants to come back.
It seems that we're now on to speaking about the application, Chairman. And a couple of points I picked up from other speakers. I think this is a very interesting, unique design which should be supported. But one thing we don't seem to have in front of us is the response from the public in what they saw and what their comments were. Basically, the users of this, are they infused or not infused? We don't really know that. when we've made a discussion about the design that we have. And I just point out that to Councillor Trumbull that if you went to the initial part of the Northern Arc near Freaks Lane, that not even Homes England are happy with the design of the buildings there. And basically, it's the cladding's an issue. So, you know, there's another design issue for you. The point that Councillor Eaves has mentioned about the cycling provision, well, it's not just cycling, it's walking in that area. I mean, a lot of people will walk. And just from my own sort of perception as a cyclist, I mean, I used to cycle to Warden Park, which in those days was half the size of this school. There were more people cycling in those days than there are now. It's incredible. I think that the Northern Arc will facilitate a lot more cycling to that premises, but to discard the fact that Hayward Heath and Burgess Hill is not an issue. When we went to a site visit recently with Homes England, they said, "Oh gosh, we've got to provide a cycle route between here and Hayward Heath." So if you look at page 31, you will see that there is that comment made about having an effective multifunctional route. And in fact, I've cycled that particular way for 60 years, and it's unbelievable that the powers to be cannot actually turn it into a formal cycle route throughout the whole route that I use. So I would like to see a lot more done on that particular aspect of the thing. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Yeah, from a lot of what you said there, Councillor, is not really relevant to this application. As regards to your question about consultations, well, this has been out to consultation, but the whole Northern Arc has, and on this particular application, we've had no objections. So, you know, that's it. Thank you. Councillor Coote.
I'd just like to make one point, Chairman. When I started in the construction industry in 1965, I worked on a number of schools which have since been knocked down. I do hope that this one is built properly, of quality, so that it will last at least 100 years. For if you look around, there are buildings in this country that have lasted 500-600 years, and it strikes me as extremely aggravating when you get, I'm not going to mention any particular sites, when you get 1.25 inch mastic joints around the door and the doors don't fit, and so I would stress that we need to have good control over the site when it's being built. Other than that, Chairman, I'd move as recommended.
Thank you, Councillor Coote. Well, I wish I had the crystal ball, but you know, that's what we have building regulations for. So I'm sure it would be built to last, well, at least the rest of my lifetime, if not more.
Building regulations that you could build, well, I can't use the word here, improperly.
Right, okay. Thank you for that. I have no further questions. So I'd like to go to the recommendations, and that the planning permission be granted subject to the conditions set out in Appendix A. Councillor Coote, you proposed, may I have a second?
I'll second.
Councillor Forbes was second, and that is also in the taking into consideration the changes in the update sheet and conditions. Yeah.
Clive Leban's lighting condition.
And Councillor Band's lighting conditions, sorry. Okay, so we go to our keypads now to vote. Thank you.
The motion to approve is recommended, and the application has been approved unanimously.
Thank you very much. That application is approved. I'll go to item 60 on the agenda, questions pursuant to Council Procedure Rule 10.2, due notice of which has been given. I have none, and I close this meeting at 2:49 p.m. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you.